What's up, guys? Welcome back to Games in Hand, and we're taking a look at Kingdom Hearts 3, which is just launched on Steam here on the Legion Go. And we'll take a look at some performance. We're pretty much just going to focus, though, on handheld 20 watts because the game's pretty easy to run and there's plenty of option to run it however you want. So let's go ahead and get into it, and let's start with the settings a little bit. So I'm going to go with 1200p as my base. We'll leave resolution at 100% for now, and VSync off for now and unlock frame rate, but we will mess around with that a little bit as we get into it. It says custom, but this is the medium preset. Changed it to custom to turn off motion blur. You can't just go through and change settings on a preset. You have to actually go click custom after you pick the preset you want. Just a note for anybody changing settings. And with these settings at pretty much medium here, 1200p at native and 20 watts, we're in and around 40s and 50s, and performance really does vary depending on where you're at in the game, and there's going to be different levels and different areas that'll play better or worse than others. I've played through this entire game on both Xbox and PC before over on Epic, but it was cool to see this coming over to Steam and being able to test it on more of these handhelds here. And again, performance this way can get a little bit messy, especially in certain areas of the game and when things are loading in or out or there's effects happening. So 1200p isn't necessarily that great unless you're someone who's really going to target 30 FPS as your cap and then 20 watts or higher, and then you would be able to get there. You could also lower a few more of your settings from medium down to low, which will help some, but I didn't notice a huge difference in a lot of that. Maybe some ambient occlusion and shadows and stuff would help you out a little bit, but ultimately it's the resolution that I noticed would give me more of a difference. We go in here into the settings real quick and I'll show you in display. We'll go here to our render scale and go 75% rather than changing everything to 800p. I think this looks and works a little bit better, and that's going to allow us to go much higher here on our FPS. We get a little bit cleaner actually on frame times. Everything just runs a little bit better this way. It takes a little bit more pressure off the system. It just doesn't really love the 1200p with these settings necessarily, again, unless maybe you're capping 30, but this way at 75% is pretty good. Now if you want to smooth things out, of course we can use the refresh rate here, which is basically the VSync, and this will cap to whatever we do with our frame rate or whatever our display is. Right now I'm plugged into 60 for my capture card, so it's going to cap to that this way, but on the native display you could cap it higher. But yeah, that would smooth things out for you. Of course 60 FPS is a nice spot to stick with if we can, when we can here, and this works out pretty well. It definitely smooth things out. I can feel a little bit more input latency when I use the screen refresh, when I use the VSync. But it does smooth out the frame time, the frame rate, and ultimately keeps the experience pretty good. You're still going to come under 60 depending on what you're doing and where you're at from time to time, unless you tweak some more of those settings or maybe even go a little lower on that resolution, but I wouldn't really want to. I find this to be a pretty good sweet spot. I'll go ahead and turn that off and let the frame rate go back up to whatever it wants here. And again, there's plenty of headroom between wattage, settings, resolution, everything here for you to be able to play this game however you want to. Lower settings, higher settings, lower frame rate, whatever the case, there's plenty of option here. So that's why I found not really a need to show a ton in this video because it is pretty easy to run. It's fairly well optimized. It's not a newer game, though it's a new release here on Steam, and it runs great on all the handhelds really. I've tried it on the Ally and the Steam Deck and here on the Legion Go, and have been playing it on my PC today as well, and it's running really well. So pretty much however you're going to want to run this game, I don't think you're going to run into too much trouble. And I've gone much farther in and done about 5 hours of this today, getting into the game, and performance is pretty consistent with what you're seeing here in the video depending on where I'm at. There are some areas like the town and some other towns that with more NPCs around, it will just dip even though we're not necessarily using a lot of CPU or maxing the GPU. It just is something that happens no matter what I do with the settings. So you're definitely going to run in to areas like that where that could happen to you, and even capping to 60 or using your VSync or any of that, it's not really going to help you with those dips, but it does make things a lot smoother running around here with all that happening. But yeah, ultimately performance pretty decent, and I think you'll be able to run Kingdom Hearts 3 however you want to here on Steam. And if you haven't experienced this game yet, you're in for a treat. I've played through it twice, and who knows, maybe I'll be playing through it here again on the handhelds. Alright guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, we really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.